Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and I think today is Tuesday. Is that right? Yeah, Tuesday, April 21st. This will be our chart lesson for today. The days are kind of running together, and I'll be glad when we get back to normal. It sounds like maybe we're going to start trying to open some things back up, and hopefully our state's going to open up. I think we're supposed to open up Monday, this coming Monday, if nothing changes in between. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. But anyway, let's talk about today. I'm not going to, I think yesterday's video ended up going like 50 minutes. And a lot of you, I got a few emails about why I didn't post a video yesterday. Well, there's one up now, so you're going to get two today. Basically, you got one early today. But somehow the video was set to private, and I probably just overlooked something. But I'm telling you, every day YouTube changes something lately. They require something new to check off this, something about kids or something about advertising or something about profanity or whatever, which none of that applies to us, but I still have to check all these boxes and they keep adding new ones. And so somewhere either I just missed it or they've added a new one. I'll figure it out today what I did wrong. But the video went posted yesterday, but it was private until I started getting a few emails this morning, and I was like, well, I know the video's there. I know I uploaded it. I know I did it because it was about a 50-minute long video and probably the longest one I've ever done. And so, anyway, needless to say, it was there the whole time. It just was private, and so you didn't get a notice and you couldn't find it. But it is available now, so you'll get two today. Unfortunately, especially when when you spend 50 minutes on a video, you hope it gets uploaded and people get to view it. I spent a lot of time reading some emails and stuff, so I got a few more since then. I'm not going to bore you reading a bunch of emails. I don't know if you guys like that or not. I know it's a lot of you have commented that you like to see that other people are having success, and so that's the reason I try to read them. And a lot of times there's some good points made in some of the emails from people that are having success, and that's another reason I like to read them. So just to make sure, when you do watch yesterday's video for today or whenever, make sure you take away from it the idea of just about being patient and waiting for the right setups instead of chasing trades all over the chart. So um, anyway, uh, I'm going to talk about one quick thing, and then I'm just going to go through the trades. We're going to make it short today. I'm going to try to get out of here early for a change today. I've been working 10 or 12 hour days the last couple of weeks, and so um, it's a nice spring day out, 75 degrees, not a cloud in the sky here. So I'm going to try to wrap this up and enjoy an afternoon for myself for a change too. So, but anyway, somebody asked me about the trend change. I get this question a lot, and how do you know when the trends change? Well, don't start trying to trade in the other direction until you get a confirmed trend in the other direction. That's the safest thing to do. And if you're not so sure if the trend's ending, just don't take any more shorts. The longer a trend goes, the the more likely at some point it's going to end. And today we've got a two-tiered channel that's working down. We got a break, and we've tried to make a new low. We haven't got one yet. My guess is that we're going to keep trying until we do. We kind of just started going sideways here, but you can see the two tiers in it. Midline's right about here. We started off down here, so when we went higher, I just measured this lower part and moved it up, and we went a little further than that, but that gives you a good target. And the other way was I measured this leg up and looked for a measured move, and again, they come out to about the same place, but again, we went a little bit further than that. So sometimes you'll go a little bit further, sometimes you'll come up short, and it does look like we're going to continue to try to make a new low here. With a trend that strong, it wouldn't surprise me if we don't make a new low. I mean, if we do make a new low, we've only got about maybe 25 minutes to do that, so that's plenty of time. But my guess is we'll probably close going sideways in this range, maybe back down here, and we may make a new low. We'll just see. That's our expectation. So, but yeah, the first thing you have to do is find the bigger pattern of the day. And what's the bigger pattern of the day? We spiked down and went into this two-tier channel. Notice how steep that is. A lot of times when you see these real steep moves, they'll go into a flatter channel. It's just too steep here, so it spikes down and goes in this channel. If you just drew this trend line, it confirmed it pretty quickly, and it continued to hold. Even when we came back to it here after a perfect measured move down to this line, that's where I got that line. We still found resistance at that trend line. We broke on through, but notice how now we're still trying to make that low, and that's the expectation. So even though you got a trend working up here, your expectation is we're still probably going to try to go lower. We may not, and as long as that trend line keeps holding, of course, stay with it. So, but you have to draw your shorter term trend lines. I'll get charts from people, and they don't have any trend lines on them, and they want to know why they, how come a trade failed. And there's no way. I've been doing this long enough. I can glance at this chart and see these trends without really having to draw them for the most part. I still put them on there because sometimes they'll fool you. But if you're not drawing your trend lines, you're going to miss so much. And I know this to new people, this looks like helter skelter. But once you understand what we're doing and understand what the chart is telling you, it will make more sense. It'll be crystal clear at that point. Because I get that comment a lot. I looked at your chart and I saw all those lines. I'm like, who could make heads or tails of that? And you're right. But I could take the lines off, and you still couldn't make heads or tails of it. So you got to learn to read the chart. So and the lines help you. Even though it seems like a hindrance, they help you. And also you have to understand that as the day progresses, more lines get added. Early on, I didn't have anything but the two-tiered and whatever we were working short term. But as the day goes on, and I try to do the chart list, and they've all piled up over the day. So, and if I was still drawing them out here after 2 o'clock, we'd be adding more shorter term lines. Wow, look at there. Did you see how fast? I don't know if you noticed that while the chart was going, but we just dropped 20. We just dropped at least 15 points or so there in like 2 seconds. It just rocketed straight down. So we may get that new low in yet. But once we broke through that support right there, the bottom fell out. I wasn't even looking, and I noticed it out of the corner of my eye how quickly it had dropped because I'd been watching it bounce right there on that midline. So we may get our new low in yet. They got real close on that push right there. So. But anyway, just remember that as long as this two-tier channel is in play, you may get corrections back to it, but that's not an uptrend. If it's a good trend and you get a lot of good setups, sure, you can go long. You'll notice early I had a couple of longs, and then I didn't have another long in here until we'd met our measured move and this trend line had played out, and we were probably heading back to here. And even then, there's only one. If you notice, there's only 2 longs on this whole day because this is a downtrend day. It's got a downward bias, and most of your best trades are going to be with the bias and the trend. So even once we got this going, I didn't really look for a lot of longs. There's a couple of green ones in here too, but I didn't really look for a lot of longs because this is the first break of this trend line on a very bearish day. So we're probably going to correct a little bit. It may just go sideways, but we're probably going to try to retest that low. On a day this bearish, with that much down move, we're probably going to try to retest this low. Even if you get a correction, and notice we got a leg up and a little 2-legged correction, another leg up. We didn't get a measured move on this one. Actually, I measured this first leg, and that was your second leg up going here. And we actually had to get 2 more legs up after a break of this to really get close to that. And we actually went a little past it. So yeah, the idea is to stay with the main trend and don't be trying to counter trend trade. So even when you get these corrections, you got to be really careful. You want to make sure you got a good solid trend line that's proven. And then you don't want to be going long into this main trend line, and you may not even want to go long after breaking it because we're going to come back and try to test that low most likely. It's not 100%. If we had a big overshoot down here, we may just reverse. But the main thing I want you to take away on the trend changes is be real careful. Don't trade them until you get a confirmed trend line. I'm going to show you some reversal patterns as we get into this. But the key is until you're really good, don't just trade off a reversal pattern. Look for the trend confirmation in the other direction and trade it until that plays out. Notice how this little trend's working up. You get a break, you actually get a two-legged correction, and then that's your first break of that trend line. Then it has two legs to a new high, and then it's moving lower again. Same thing here. We were working down. We get a couple of legs of correction there. Notice you got, this would have been our, this is leg one. And when we started back up, there's leg two. And you expect the trend to probably take off again, and that'll probably be the center of the pattern. And guess what? We went a little higher because we were trying to get back to that trend line. And I actually found this line off these lows and then drug it up here. And plus the measured move. So when it got to that point, and it gives you a confirmation, and you know, and then measure this leg right there, and then look to see where your target is. And look where our target is to that line. And you could find that as early as a little before 9 o'clock this morning. So before 9 o'clock this morning, I already had a target of down here just below 27.20. And look how that next leg went straight to, I mean, it's to the tick, I believe. We'll back out a little bit and look. And then it bounces because your downtrend has pretty much met its criteria of two measured legs down. Now we're going to get a break of the trend line and a retest to the low, and we're still trying the retest. There's a lot of buying coming in right here around this 27.20 to 27.25, but the way this thing's moving, and we still got a little over 15 minutes. We may or may not get through there and test and make a new low. I don't know, but these prices are sure trying. Just that's perfect price action. And I can show you on these short-term trend lines all day long some perfect price action where you, like this shorter term one coming down. Notice you get the break, two legs to a new low, so you're not fooled when it bounces off that lower line and starts trending up, because you know what prices are going to do. And then this one's moving up, and you get two-legged correction, and you get that next leg up, and that's probably going to be the center of your whole pattern, and it was. So it takes a while to learn this, so don't, you know, if you've been doing this for even a few months and you still don't get that, as long as you understand what it's supposed to do, you may not have seen it, but the key is if you've been doing this a few months, you should understand what prices should be doing. It just, you know, it kind of reminds me of these emails I get that I've been doing everything by the book, and I can't get a single winning trade, you know. What's the deal? And then, you know, you look and they're not doing anything. They're not following any rule at all. They don't even have the basics down yet. So people think they got it. And that brings me to another comment. Somebody told me they've been going to one of our Facebook things, and I'm not necessarily against those, but I'm not crazy about them because there's usually traders that know are not there. So it's just a bunch of people trying to learn. And you got one guy that thinks he knows it one way and he's wrong. You got another guy that thinks he's right and he's wrong. And you might have one guy that's right, but you got all these other guys that think they're right, and most of them are wrong. And so the most of the information you get there is wrong, and you start learning all this stuff. But somebody made a comment. I haven't even been to any of the Facebook groups, but somebody made a comment that there's one, and they dropped by there a couple of times. And they, you know, there's all kind of people on there saying, hey, I'm ready to go live in the next couple of weeks. I got this down. And the comment was that they didn't even understand the very basics, and they're talking about going live. And that's what happens to everybody. They think they can do this. They think they've got it. And you'll think you got it 100 times, and you won't be anywhere close. When you finally do really get it, you'll know. Until then, you'll think you've got it a bunch of times, and that won't make sense until you get there and you've got it. And you may not ever get there and get it, but when you get there and get it, you'll look back and say, yeah, Mac told me that, and now I know what he meant by it. Because most people don't get it when I tell them that, but you'll think you've got this. If you haven't doubled a $5,000 or $10,000 sim account following the rules properly, you're not ready to go live. If you can't do it on the simulator, you can't do it live. Trust me, because it's harder to do it live than it is on the simulator. But if you can do it on the simulator, you've proven you can do it, and you just have to get the craziness out of you, that little voice out of your head that screws you up, the mental part of it. So if you can double or triple a sim account from $5,000 and following the rules and doing everything right, then you know you can do this because you're trading. I mean, you're trading the exact same data if you've got a good simulator, that is, and trading live data. You're trading the same data, and it's this Ninja Trader is just as real trading. You can't tell the difference. So keep that in mind. You want to be able to do this on sim before you do it live. And if you're thinking about going live, you're just going to be a donator. If you haven't doubled a sim account, at least 5,000, but I say 10,000. And that gives you some skin in the game too, because it puts pressure on you to get that goal made. And so whenever there's a goal or something, it makes it more realistic and puts more pressure. Still probably not the same as real money, but that putting that goal on you will put some pressure on you, and you'll have some skin in the game to get there so you can actually go live, because everybody wants to go live. Everybody thinks they're ready to go live, and they turn out just to be donators because they're not ready. This is a long journey, so be prepared. But anyway, I didn't mean to get off on that soapbox. I'm gonna go through the trades. But notice that we got the bigger pattern, so we know the trend is down. But guess what? When we get to the low down here, at some point, we're probably going to get a break of this trend line, a retest attempt. Now, depending on if it didn't break till down here, we may not be able to get a new low on a retest. But here we broke early. We made 2 legs down, perfect price action to a new low, and bounced right off that trend channel line, which that's when I changed mine a little bit right there. And we start trending the other way. So now where are we headed? We're headed at least back to the midline, and we're probably going to head back to the trend line. So if you get a good trend going in the other direction and everything's staying above the EMA, then you can maybe take a long or two, but you got to be careful. Really what you want to do is wait for it to get back up here and start looking for shorts again, because that's where your big moves are going to come from. Notice that even on the way back up, the bigger moves were to the downside. There's a couple of nice moves up here, but most of them, the bigger moves were to the downside with the trend. But anyway, 7 o'clock came right as we were bottoming right in here. And then notice you made that new low, and you get a first entry, and then you get a second entry right there. That's the first break of that. And that's been a long trend down. So, and notice we came up, how much we came up short. Well, notice we overshot it about that much on the break. So that gives you a good idea. We're probably going to try to turn lower there. So there's a second entry short, right? Let me make this bigger. There's a second entry short right there, 1 tick. That's not a perfect bar, but it's still relatively bearish in a big bearish market. I went back and forth about whether that one should be aggressive or not, but it also makes a double top. So I think it's worth taking. Notice that it does pull back again and make a lower high. It actually breaks higher and turns. So when it goes out right there, if you weren't in here, definitely jump in right there. And that's a quick, there's another second entry short right there that I wouldn't have been afraid to take. But that bar's too neutral and horrible signal bar. It works, but the next time you take it, it won't work. And you got all that support growing down here. And we have pretty much played out this we haven't played this out, but let me make sure I clarify this. We have pretty much met our target down here of the lower side of a possible channel. So we're probably going to make a new low. This channel really hasn't been confirmed yet. You might have drawn this line across here. Actually, I originally had it here, and I tightened it up to this where it fit a little better after we made this low here. So you probably wouldn't have had this line. So you're just trying to let this play out. So that's why going on another second entry short here in a 2-legged correction, that's probably the center of a pattern, as we always talk about. Here's leg, the first leg, and then there's leg 2. And you see we got a little more than a measured leg down. So you got plenty of room left here and plenty of room to here that you're worried about bouncing at, even bouncing here at this little double bottom. So if you'd had a good signal bar, your chart has one, by all means take that trade. And then we make the new low, and lo and behold, prices reverse. Just perfect price action. Break of a trend line, 2 legs down to a new low to retest the low, and we're going the other way. So where are we headed? We're headed back to the midline, and we probably might even head back to the main trend line that's up here. So we're going here. I don't see a reversal I like here. Notice you got a new low, and you got a first entry and then a second entry. And so there's a failed second entry short. So we break above there. That's what a reversal pattern looks like, except you'd prefer to see it push on through the EMA and then close on this side. And it doesn't do that. And this has been a strong downtrend. So even though that's a trap, I didn't mark it. But that's a failed second entry short, and you're expecting prices to go higher. You might take that. It's still a little aggressive because we're still making lower highs and lower lows here. So I probably would not take that trade. And of course, we run up here and we just kind of start going sideways. This is kind of in the middle of the main channel. Here's your trend line, here's your trend channel, and that's your midline. And we're just going sideways. You do get a little failed break out the top, which would lead you to think we'd probably go lower, but not a very good signal bar. And you don't want to go long here in the middle of that. I mean, you really don't want to enter in that unless you can follow range rules and have enough room to scalp out, and you don't get that set up. So in either direction, because this is too bullish. Notice we make that leg down, and then you make another leg down, and you get 2 measured legs down basically. So I drew this trend line here and drew it, and then just copied it and drug it down across those lows after 2 legs down. And then you get another little reversal here again, but notice the new low, first entry, and then second entry, and technically that's not a failed second entry short. And it didn't set up above the EMA. It does kind of confirm this line, but I'd wait on a third touch up here to consider it a confirmation. So this line here is just the measured move that we were looking for. Notice where that puts us back up here. We just measured this line here, or this move right here. Moved it over here. And we're looking for a measured leg up. Notice that we just went to the trend line again. Once again, this came up a little short, but so we overshot it trying to get back to the trend line. And notice too that this is really important here. Notice the main trend line coming down. This trend channel line coming in, that's confluence there. This trend line working up, they all come together right there. Something's probably going to give right there. And notice you got a new low here, you're working up, you get a first entry, and then you get a second entry short right there, a lower high off that high coming off the trend line. That's a good setup. And a lot of times those will take off. Unfortunately, this trend line hadn't played out, and notice what happened. We bounced off of it again. But then this one comes back, and you can see once again it takes precedence and it's holding, and then you get another lower high. The only reason I made this, and it's a second entry short, the only reason I made this one green is because you got a lot of stem there. It's still a bearish bar, but it's not a really good one. And you can notice it took a little bit before it took off again. And there's actually a reversal pattern right here. Notice this new. Actually, it's not a new high. You could call that a double top, but notice it tries to go higher once, twice, and it excuse me, it did push through the EMA. Notice that you try to go higher once, twice, actually twice right here, and it fails and then turns down. So you might go short right there. It's not a great setup. But notice it does run down, and now we get a break of this trend line. And you bounce back. Notice first entry, second entry short, big bearish bar. That's a good one. And then you try to go higher once, twice, and get another nice entry right here. So another bearish bar. And finally off we go. It was pretty obvious this downtrend was in play at this point, and you're not going to get a retest of this high after this. This is just a correction in a bigger downtrend. So even though it tried to make a retest of the high, the bigger channel came into play and held it back, which is pretty common. But remember, we're off on leg 2 heading down now. And if you catch that one, you do catch a pretty good move down. And then you get in this trend. I didn't really mark any of these. There's still some nice opportunities. There's actually a little two-legged correction here. Notice that low, and you come back up to here, then you turn down, and you turn back again, and you get a fairly bearish bar. But it's a lot of sideways in there. But it's one you could call for, especially in a big downtrend. But that's why it's so important that you learn to recognize where it reverses, because your best opportunities will be back up here where you got to be a little better at reading the price action. It's pretty obvious now we're going down. There's another second entry short right here. Notice that low, first entry, and then second entry right there. Again, it's not a great signal bar. It's not a bad one. It's mostly bearish, but it's just not a great signal bar, and we're not getting back to the EMA. But a lot of times on these strong trends, you don't get back to the EMA. So finally we get a break here, and then notice you make a new low, and you get a first entry, and then you get a second entry. Again, there's a little bit of sideways there, but with that second entry short, finally getting back to the EMA and right off that midline, I'm going to probably take that trade. There it goes. You actually make a lower high right here, and there's still a lot of room. So there's another one you might enter. I'm just going to mark it green. And remember, for any of you that are new, I know a lot of you don't read the disclaimer at the beginning. You just start watching the video. But green means it fits our rules, but it's a little aggressive. It's not a perfect setup. If it's a red arrow, it means it's a good setup. If it's a green arrow, it means it fits our criteria, but it's a little aggressive. It's probably a little more advanced, or it's probably a little aggressive, and you need to be careful with it. And of course, if it's a blue arrow to the upside, it's a good long. So you won't see many of those today. But notice you got the break, and you get one leg down, and then you make a couple of more legs down here. You actually, I didn't draw it on here, but you actually have a little flatter trend line working. Trend channel, really. I just didn't want to get this chart too crazy. And once you train your eyes, you can see this without even putting it on there, like I said. But until then, put it on. I mean, you should put it on there anyway, really. So just it's just smart, because it's sometimes you'll miss stuff. Okay, I forgot to turn my ringer off. But notice we got a little overshoot of that. But we got a break, and then two legs down to a new low. We actually pushed a little further just to meet that measured. I mean, we hit it to the tick. Look at that. I mean, and I found that at 9 o'clock. So almost 2 hours prior, you had a good idea where this prices were going. Use those measured legs, but hopefully you can see that little flatter channel. And notice you got a new low here, first entry, second entry. You really could have gone short there, but I was a little leery of that one with this overshoot. And you can see the trend line working up, and we're still on this side of it, but finally we close outside, make a new high on the next bar, and it actually breaks higher and turns. Just go short right there on the lower high. And again, you could probably argue for that one to be I'm sorry, I just had to turn my ringer off. It's going to keep ringing, I guess. But you could argue for that trade there, because it's been a really big downtrend. But notice how we shot through that EMA, and you're probably going to at least pull back to it. Plus, there's some resistance across there, which is this line. I ended up moving it down a little later. At that point, it would have been right across there, you can see. But because of that trend line working up, you just have to be careful there, because we're getting ready for some kind of bounce here. You don't know when it's coming, so you just have to start getting more picky about your trades. And then look at that one go, and then you bounce back, and you make another lower high. And this is really a repeat pattern. Notice you make your high, and then it makes this bullish bar tries to break higher, then turns down. It's basically a repeat pattern. and then you get a perfect measured move down. Actually, you go a little further because you're trying to go here, but if you'd just shot for that measured move, you'd have had a great trade on that. And notice even on this little trend line working down, you get a break, close outside, two legs to a new low, and it reverses. So then we're working up. Now this is more what a reversal looks like. Notice you got a new low, first entry, and then you just shoot up through the EMA and then turn back. And this actually broke lower, fails, turns up, and goes long. That's a great place to probably go long right there. That's a reversal. It's a little bit big, large bar, and it's an outside bar, which that's okay, but just because it's so big and you didn't get a good setup on, you know, from a single bar or whatever. This is like an outside bar, so it's a little different, and it's just not a perfect setup. But that's what reversals look like. They push through that EMA, and usually they'll push through pretty easily, and notice that one didn't. And that's another reason I made that one green. But notice it does confirm the trend line. You got your first two swings, and it comes back. Off it goes. The problem is you're going long right up here into the upper half, and that's another issue with it. And then you just keep coming back. And then finally you get a second entry long. Notice that new high, first entry. And you turn back down, it breaks lower and turns. And when it breaks above there, that's a second entry long. And you're looking for it to retest this high. Probably go back up to these highs right here. And it actually goes up there and turns down at that same spot. But notice again, you got your trend line working up. You get a close outside, a little two-legged second entry long, moves to a new high, and then it reverses. And then coming down here, you actually get a similar type setup. Notice how it comes down. You get a first entry, and then you get a second leg, and it doesn't go very far and then fails, and you get a chance to go short below the EMA. And so you'll probably get another leg just like that one. And notice we went a little further because once again we go all the way down and test the lows. But that turns out to be another great trade. And the further away you get away from the EMA, the less likely you want to enter away from it too, because it's going to snap back pretty quick. And notice what happens. That's what usually happens. People try to get short way down here and then it reverses on them. And then this is what a really good reversal looks like. I prefer to see it closer to the EMA, but this one's pretty strong. Notice how it goes straight through the EMA. You get a first entry short and then a second entry short, and it fails right at that trend line. And it's also, notice that new high, first entry, second. It's also a second entry long. And look how it pushes up real strongly and real fast. Unfortunately, it can't get through here. It finds a lot. Look how long it took it to push through there. And just stay out of this. Don't go long or short. Only way you could go long is if you got a little failed break lower and you got a chance to get in way down here with plenty of room to get out before here. Because it could be an important low, but most of the time you probably won't know. And then of course measure your leg here. And that puts you back up here. We didn't quite get there. Not on that move anyway. And once we broke higher here, I showed you how to measure this and look for that to be a possible target, as well as this is your target. And this one's closer to being right because we are really in this sideways channel now. But notice we're working down, make a new low, first entry, and you actually make a second entry short right there. I don't like going short below that bar, but when it tried to go higher again, you probably trap some people. So you may go short then, but it's dangerous going short right into this, period. So you got to get in up here and have enough room before you take that trade at all. I marked it green, but you can see we're just kind of going sideways there. When you get two dojis in a row, these are technically not dojis because they're closed bearish, but they're just kind of going sideways and stacking up. So it's not a really good trade. I marked it green just to point it out, but I don't think I'd take that trade. And of course, you're working back up. You get a close outside, move to a new high, a little correction, then you get a next leg up. I don't see anything. Again, you're going sideways, nothing there. So where you want to look for something is when you get back up to the upper side. Notice you got a trend line working up, close outside, move to a new high, and then it turns down. Unfortunately, you don't get a signal bar here. You get a lower high right here, again, right off that trend line. So that's not a bad spot to go short. And look at it go. And we back down here. We got back below the midline, and notice you made a low. First entry, second entry. It actually broke higher and turned down. That would be a good place to go short. You don't get much more in a scalp out of it, but that takes you into the 2 o'clock hour. So plenty of trades on here. And really, all your trades should have, most of your good trades were to the downside on a day like this. But you can see that spike and channel, and then the break, and we just really went sideways. We never got our new low either. They just couldn't do it. They tried, but we're really stuck in this range, and there's obviously a lot of buying coming in at this 27.20 price. It may take a little while to work through it if we're going to go lower. So, which it's a distinct possibility, because it's probably going to be some spillover from oil. If you read my mid-morning chart this morning, my little summary on that, I talked about oil. I mean, for the first time in history, oil has gone below zero on a futures contract. I think it's the first time any futures contract has ever gone to zero or below. So I think one of the contracts closed yesterday at minus $15 or something. So the companies had to pay them $15 to take their oil away. I mean, that's crazy. That's unprecedented, and I don't know if they know how to handle it, really, since it's never happened before. And so I know that most of the brokers in oil, man, they shot their margins sky high. And then I got another email from one of my brokers this afternoon, saying that they weren't even going to take any more trades in oil in those contracts at all. It didn't matter, no amount of margin, because it's just too dangerous. Because what can happen is, if it gets below zero like that and nobody wants to buy it, and you've got to buy to get out of a contract and nobody will take it, then you're stuck. You can't get out, and that contract closes. You know, and you got to either pay the money or take delivery. And I don't think you want them backing up to your front door with barrels of oil that you got to pay for. So you're going to have to pay the money. So and it could be an extremely large amount of money. So anyway, that's why you're better off to stay out of those markets when craziness like that's going on. But where I was going with that is, it may spill over into the equities. You know, they tend to, oil tends to, a couple of times last sell off on oil, it causes the equities to sell off strongly too. So I'm sure this sell off has a little bit to do with that, although it's not completely unexpected because of what we've seen in the chart. So anyways, I still got 40 minutes worth today, and I didn't talk about any emails or anything but the trades, really. So just me running my mouth. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. I want to get out of here. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. Hope you had a good day. Hope you learned something today. We'll be back again tomorrow. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.